I'm Alicia Brown. Thanks for joining us. When it comes to social media and new technological advances, Americans have a lot to learn about what's being done with their information and their privacy rights. Most Americans are unaware of how the government and other institutions are using our personal data to create revenue. For more on big data, here is Joelle Schrock.
Big data is the ability to collect and analyze data in all major fields, including education, technology, government, business, and personal. Industry analyst Doug Laney stated in the early 2000s that big data must include the 3 V's: volume, where data is being collected; velocity, the speed in which it is collected; and variety, the types of data: words, numbers, and pictures. The age of big data has been on a slow rise since the mid-1900s, but due to both an explosion of new technologies in the late 20th century and an increase of terrorist activity, big data is now increasing at an unprecedented and exceedingly fast rate. The amounts of information electronically created, shared, and exchanged between individuals and businesses continues to grow. At this rate, we will outgrow our own storage capacities and could even outgrow the internet itself. Naturally, all of this information came at a price, and that price is surveillance.
The path of our data, the internet connections, our correspondence and things like that, everything is visible, and it's in the hands of people who are not primarily concerned with using big data to serve the public interest.
Those doing the surveying will say this information will keep the public safer and make it easier to help businesses and societies improve. But those of us being surveyed believe that our privacy is being violated and have no answers as to what specifically our data is being used for. When the amounts of data in our country increases, and it will continue to, the risk of our online content staying private decreases. For more on internet privacy, here's Tyler Weed.
How much privacy do you feel like you have while on the internet? Unfortunately, you probably have less privacy than you think. While simply browsing the internet is free, the sites you use every day, such as Google and Facebook, need to make money somehow. An example of what they do to make money would be how Facebook logs every action you make on their site, from your particular likes, number of interactions with certain friends, and even the words in your status updates. The reason they take all the specific information is so that it can be sold to advertisers. These advertisers then serve you targeted advertisements based on all the information given to them by Facebook. Then there is Google. And while you may think you're just logging your search results on their own site, it does not stop there. Google's reach extends past their own site when it comes to data gathering, as their tracking software is installed on over 10 million other websites. The scary part is, we do not even know the full extent of what sites like Google and Facebook store or what they do with it. The data these companies collect is unprecedented, and they make billions of dollars off of it. Due to the fact that these advertisements are served to us based on our preferences, we are put under constant surveillance in exchange for our free internet. Back to you, Alicia.
Thank you, Tyler. On our next story, our reporter Marina will show us how we are failing to manage our flow of personal information online and how Google fails to make the nature of the operation clear and explicit.
In this section, I want to help the audience picture what is at stake in the seemingly costless transaction between Google and its users, and make you aware of the surveillance that we are suffering today, which goes beyond the theory of social control described by Michel Foucault, the panopticon model. The original panopticon, envisioned by Jeremy Bentham, was a design for a circular prison with a central watchtower, in which all the inmates will behave because they will assume that they were being observed at all times.
That used to be thought of, for those people who knew what it was, as a kind of science fiction nightmare. Oh my God, if this ever came to be, we're in bad shape. We should really be worried about it. Well, look around us. We live in a panopticon now. The panopticon defined basically as a world in which everyone and everything is visible at all times. And I think it even goes beyond the original vision of the person who first conceived of it. It was a very primitive model. Google has ramped it up exponentially.
However, the panopticon model does not help us describe our situation anymore. Nowadays, surveillance does not make people inhibit their behavior anymore. People may act oddly regardless if they are being observed.
We used to have a sense that we could be protected. Our personal information could be protected, our images about ourselves. There really was a sense that privacy was important and that it could be protected. Now in the digital age, not so much. I think we have to bear some of the blame for that, as well as the big corporations. But we live in an environment that simply, I think, does not highly value or protect privacy, and I think that's unfortunate.
Google knows way too much about us, but what do we really know about it? Where does our personal information go? These are questions that nowadays still unsolved. This is Marina Ruiz Valdivieso from Fairfield, Connecticut, for Digital Citizen News.
Edward Snowden, United States traitor or NSA whistleblower? If you were to ask the citizens of our nation, I'm sure you would get the response of NSA whistleblower, for Snowden is seen as a hero to the population for his discovery of the government, specifically the NSA, spying and tracking our every move.
I think Snowden is one of the great heroes. The idea of surveillance looking upwards as well as downwards is incredibly important. I think surveillance can be very useful, but I think it's especially useful when the eye is trained on people who have real power. And I think that's what Snowden, I know that's what Snowden did. And I think what he did was illegal in some respects, but that doesn't mean it wasn't right. I think the laws haven't quite caught up with morality in some respects. But I think people are aware of what they need to be aware of. And public sentiment, I think that's going to have a ripple effect.
Of course, in the eyes of the government, they will banish Snowden and consider him a traitor, only for the reason of exposing the government's unconstitutional dirty work. Snowden uncovered highly classified documents which were very discrediting to the NSA in their methods of luring internet companies to follow, along with their procedures to spy on its users. These methods were disguised by the NSA's manipulation of government companies believing this procedure was to prevent terrorism. They did this by using national security letters in which no company ever questioned. One famous and easy tracking method would be the cookies that each site gives their user as an ID number to track where they have been on the web. These trackings and data collections are very revealing of a person's interests and their actions. By a user using a search engine and being recorded every time they do so, this is an expression of intentions that a person does or wants to do, where they go or want to go, and any and everything you can think of. These data collectors know it all and much more. This is unconstitutional because you are invading a person's privacy to another extreme. Now back to you, Alicia.
In this new age of internet and social media, Americans have a lot to learn about their privacy rights and if their rights are being violated. Our social media accounts and website choices are being monitored. All of the data we accumulate online is being sold to major institutions, and all of the tracking citizens are subjected to is being sold for profit. If it wasn't for journalists going undercover and exposing the truth about our government's sneaky tendencies, Americans would be unable to arm themselves with the knowledge to protect themselves. With this information, citizens have freedom of choice and can decide whether or not they want to enable or disable cookies, participate in social media, or even whether or not they choose to use Google as a search engine. Thanks for watching this edition of Digital Citizen News. I'm Alicia Brown. We'll see you next time.